The heads-up display is very clear and easy to see. You can also customize it, adjust the brightness. Sometimes it's a little bit dim depending on the time of day or whatever, because it has the adaptive brightness feature. But overall, it's fine. It could potentially be a little bit distracting for some people, but for me, I'm kind of used to it. Not a big deal, just because of the position of it. But it is a good heads-up display. It does work well. I'm sitting in the driver's seat, and I have the driver's seat all the way back and all the way down to give you an idea of the potential legroom here. And this is too far back for me. I'm 6 feet tall, so I would have to pull it up a little bit more in order to drive it safely. And but yeah, there's a pretty good amount of legroom here. There's space here. My leg does rest on this from time to time, and this is a cloth surface, but it's not soft at all, so it's a very hard surface. So depending on how I'm positioned, sometimes my leg kind of rests on there, which is not a big deal. I mean, it's not really in the way so much. I just happen to just kind of like rest my knee on it sometimes. The steering wheel is very comfortable. It has a little bit of a soft surface in certain areas, but it's mostly a pretty firm steering wheel, but it's fine. It doesn't feel like it has a really good grippiness to it, and the thickness is good. So it's not like digging in your bones or anything while you're driving. It is a heated steering wheel as well. And I like the way it just has this exposed, like this plastic part. It's very rugged looking and feeling. And it has, places to grip it around here. But it's just a regular steering wheel. It doesn't have any kind of like grips extending out. It doesn't have a flat bottom or anything like that. Just regular traditional steering wheel as far as the shape and everything. Now here on the right side is the cruise control. And the cruise control, you turn it on here. Once you turn it on, you don't have to turn it on again. When you restart the vehicle, it stays on. The lane keep assist system you can have activated, which will turn green like that. And then when you want to turn on the cruise control, you want to set it, you lift up on this little toggle switch. So you lift up to set it, and then you can adjust the speed up and down here. You can press in to resume and down here for cancel. Now this right here, you notice it says set up and down. That's for this. This right here, even though it's right there next to these, this is separate. This is for the distance between you and the vehicle in front of you using the radar adaptive cruise control. And there's the button for the heated seat, or the heated steering wheel. It does have heated seats. That's a separate button. This is for the heated steering wheel. Here on the left side is the volume for the radio. Now it's just a little scroll wheel right here. You can't press in. So there's no ability to mute the radio. It just adjusts the volume. Now you have to really sit there and roll it a lot in order to do significant volume adjustments, which is a little bit, kind of have to do that a lot sometimes. Now this is to change to the audio track or radio station depending on what you're doing. This triangle button is one you can set up to do whatever you want basically. You have a phone button here to answer or hang up. So if somebody's calling you, press it to answer. When you're finished, you press it again to hang up. It has a voice recognition button here as well. Now, this area right here, this little center button, and these little, there's like these little implied arrows basically, which we'll get to in a second. This corresponds with the screen up here. Now the windshield wipers for the front and rear is here, and then you lift up. It does have an automatic option there for the front, rain sensing system, and it works well. And then you have the rear wiper controls there as well. The left side is the turn signal switch, but it also has the headlight switch, and it's not really that intuitive. So it has this kind of spring-loaded to the center position here. So if you lift it all the way up this way, it turns off the exterior lights. Bring it a little tiny bit is the parking lights. A little bit down is the headlights. And all the way down is the automatic function for the automatic high beams. So it's kind of a little bit like you have to see what you're doing. Unfortunately, this is not illuminated at night. So I point this out in the night video. But, once you get used to it, I'm sure it'll be fine. Now the headlight switch, you notice that these line up with that little line. Well, the headlight switch is there, and you have to line it up with that little line. Now the fog lights are different. They don't line up with that line. It's actually the opposite. It's actually, you go forward this way. Even though that line's lining up with the rear, you go forward to turn on and toggle on and off the fog lights in the front. Pull back on it to toggle on the rear fog lights. So it says 2 rear fog lights, looking really good, nice and sharp. But yeah, it's a little bit different than this right here. There's a button here on the end of the stock, and if you press that, it cycles through right here at the bottom for the odometer and trips. And you just rest on the one that you want, or nothing, basically. You can have nothing there. You can have the date, trip. So those are the different things you can have there. Now I prefer the distance to empty. So this screen, gauge cluster screen, whatever you want to call it, it is very customizable, and it looks pretty good. The only issue I've had is that it just is dim, too dim a lot of times. So because it has that adaptive brightness, even if I put it the brightness maximum, it's still, during the day, it's typically too dim. At nighttime, it seems to be fine. But at daytime, it's just dim. Sometimes I can't even see it while driving. Okay, so we use this center button here, and then basically these little bumps as arrows is what I'm going to do. So that center button will pop up a menu here. So when I press that, pops this up, and I can choose the left info panel, the information I want on the left info panel. Like before I had the driving assist, I can have a clock there, empty panel, whatever the media is playing, trip summary, 4x4 information, that's excellent, and then driver assistance. So let's go to the digital clock here. So you can see that's there now. You know, it's a little dim right now on that left side. So if we go back here, we can choose the right info panel. So we can choose whatever we want on that right side. Let's go back here, right info panel. All right, choose to the right. Now we can scroll through and choose what we want. Let's go to, actually the map is pretty good, so we'll just select that. All right, so let's pop up we can choose the display layout. So right now we have 1 dial. The 2 dial, let's select that so you can see what it looks like. That's pretty good. Now we have less things on the screen. We don't have the map anymore. So we can put the map in the middle if we really wanted to. All right, so let's pull the menu up here. Now the menu is in the middle. Display layout. And then we saw the 1 dial, which is in the middle. Now we can choose the map. And basically, it just has the map all the way across, and then we have a more simplified information here with the digital speedometer there at the top. Pull up the menu, display layout, media. So this will be whatever the media is playing. Right now there's nothing. And then you can see the layout there. So it changes quite a bit depending on your preferences here. Display layout, driver assistance. So this one will be that view right there. So depending on what you want and what works best for you, you can make the selections that you want. This will be your digital speedometer now. That shows you what the last speed limit sign it passed, what gear you're in, that kind of stuff. Your fuel gauge here, engine coolant temperature here on the right side, digital clock. So yeah, it has relevant information. It's good screen and everything. You just set up the way you want, and it's pretty good. But it's kind of dim sometimes. Okay, so has the little pockets here, right in here. There's one there. There's one here. Now, just mentioned that the electronic parking brake turns on automatically when you put it in park. But if you need to turn it on and off, you push in to engage it and pull out to disengage it. And it engages the rear wheels. I thought this was pretty cool. It's like a little shelf right there. This is open, so you can use that as like a little grab handle on that side. That little shelf there is great. It has a USB port there. And this is open back here. Okay, so the way this screen works, there's quite a bit here actually, but just kind of scroll through so you can see the different things that are up now. All right, but the fast way to get to things is to use this button. You notice it has these icons here. It has different user profiles. It has these little icons, quickly go to the navigation map, phone, and then audio, whatever your audio is playing, that's where you can see everything. Has the digital clock, which doesn't always stay there depending on what screen you're in, and then this really good camera system, and then you have your settings here. So let's go right here to this button, because this is really handy. You can go to everything right off the bat. Real easy to get to stuff. So if we want to go to the navigation, we can do that. We have different, you can search here with a full keyboard, and then you have the different ones that you can search, categories you can search. You can add your home and work and different saved addresses here, or you can just get rid of that basically and just see the map here. You can zoom in and out, get your bearings. Alright, so let's go back here. You have different user accounts you can set up. The seats, basically this is just so you can turn on or off the heated and cooled seat. Different 3-stage heated and cooled. You can do it on the screen or on the dial, which I'll show you. And you turn it off here. Driver and passenger. And then you can go into the climate control here, adjust where you want the air to blow. Front and rear climate controls can be adjusted here. You can also, has a shortcut to air quality, which is a separate icon on here. Cameras, we'll go into the cameras in a few minutes. That's pretty cool. The valet mode, eco data, basically it gives you the fuel economy. I've been getting, this is a little bit skewed because I've been sitting here, but I've been getting about 20. So fuel economy is about 20 for my driving anyway. And then the 4x4 information, this is pretty cool. I hit the wrong button. Alright, there we go. Let's go back where we were. Alright, 4x4 information. Okay, so now this shows you a lot of information on one screen. Really handy. It shows your altitude, which is pretty cool. Your bearing, which way you're aiming the vehicle. And then it shows the pitch and roll of the vehicle. The percentage, we're on completely flat surface right now. But also it shows your steering angle. And you see as I turn the steering wheel, you can see that. The status of the four-wheel drive system, what's locked, center differential, rear differential lock, is also the amount of energy going to the front and rear wheels. But yeah, you can see the articulation of the wheels and the steering angle and all kinds of real-world data that you might need to focus on if you're doing some serious off-roading. So this is pretty cool, especially like the bearing. That's pretty cool. Altitude, that's really neat. All right. So let's go to, you can turn on the low traction launch. So, you know, like if you're on slippery surface and you want to basically accelerate, you can, you know, follow directions here and start it. And it'll help you out maintaining traction on the vehicle. This is pretty neat. Another thing, the vehicle dimensions, you can change it from feet to meters. But it tells you the approach angle, breakover angle, departure angle, wheelbase, full length of the vehicle, the height and width and all that stuff. So yeah, it's pretty neat that it gives you all these dimensions right here on the screen. I don't think I've ever seen that before. Could come in handy. Then your voice, this is for talking with the system. Phone, pair your phones and prioritize them. Your media, this is whatever playing here. You have satellite radio, AM, FM, and then your Bluetooth device. It does have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which will pop up here when it's appropriate, basically. But let's look at the audio screen here. All right, so we have the album art. And of course you can browse related to what you're playing. You can do a search here. And then you have the player right there. Alright, air quality, that's pretty cool. Keep an eye on the air quality, see what's going on, see if it's satisfactory according to the vehicle. And you can see what it monitors for. Weight sensing. So this is another interesting, unique feature. It can sense the amount of water that you're in and let you know where you are in relationship to your maximum. And you can change it to feet to meters here. So yeah, if you happen to go through some water, you can keep it. It doesn't start until 4 inches of water, so you have to have at least 4 inches of water before it can pick up any water depth. But apparently it's supposed to let you know if you're how close you are to the max there. Then you can set up your trailer for towing, and then you have the driver assistance. Now the driver assistance, when you press, there's a button on the steering wheel, and when you press it, it's going to cycle through high, custom, and low. And so high, right now I have it customized to where it doesn't tell me about the speed limit and all that stuff. But if I go to high, it's going to get everything. If I go to low, it's just going to have that. So it's going to turn off the lane assist. So I can customize it there, which I customized already. I set it up. So when you press this button here, it's going to cycle through. Basically press that, and you can see it shows those different icons there, and it'll cycle through, and you rest on the one that you want. And if you press and hold it, it'll pop up this menu so you can customize it. So if you want to rearrange these icons, let's say you want to have the weight sensing a little bit higher, you can bring it up here if you want, like so. All right. You can always go back to the home here. Now, let's just look at the settings. So you can see the basic information here. Quick, home screen, audio, and then all your settings here, which you can go through. Vehicle settings, general settings, change your languages. You can do software updates here as well. All right. So we're back to our home screen. Okay, so camera, this is fantastic. When we hit the camera button, it gives us a view, depending on what we're doing. Of course, if we're in reverse, it's going to show the backup camera. But this top-down view is fantastic. You notice these little, they look like speakers, but they're little camera view angles here. Right now we're showing the front. You can see that one's highlighted. It's showing the front view. But we can get different views here. More wide view. We can even get a view of the vehicle and the surroundings. This is like, you know, a digital render of the vehicle, but you can see that vehicle behind me moving, and I can see it here on the camera system. I can go to that angle, and it turns that way. I can look at that front. This is really good for off-roading here, these views. You can see that view, that view. We can see the side view there. Side view, and then of course the rear views here. You can switch from these different angles here in the back. The camera's below the spare tire, so it's a little weird, but it's okay. But yeah, you can. What's interesting about it is you can actually have this camera up while you're driving. Like, you can go on the highway and see yourself, see where you are in relationship to the lines and other things. It's like full speed driving with the camera system. It's pretty interesting. You also have these different icons here. You have this 3D we can hit, and it just kind of cycles through these different views here. But it has the on-road, off-road view, which gives you your information about the vehicle here and steering angle and all that stuff. But it also shows your front view and then your side view there, so you can see, keep an eye on that. And then towing, really awesome. Top-down view and then the back view, so you can keep an eye on the trailer and see what's going on back there. So yeah, really like the camera system. That's like one of the best things, you know, on the vehicle is really well done camera system. And it's a big enough screen, and the clarity is really good, and of course the cameras are good enough and all that stuff to make use of all that functionality. Okay, so here is the shifter. We saw the start button. The shifter here is electronic shifter, and there's a button back here, and you can use that to, like right now we're in park because it shows park here, and at any time you just push that P right there to put it in park. So let's say I want to go into reverse. So we can push that button and then go all the way forward. Now, if I push that button and then I go a little bit forward, it's going to put it in neutral. All right, so if I push that button and I go back, it's in drive. But if I want to change through the gear ratios manually, I can move it to the left. There's no paddle shifters, if you noticed. You can bump ratchet shifter. It's like a ratchet shifter. You can bump it and change through the gears. And you'll know what gear you're in because it'll show right here. So it shows that it's in standard mode, and then it has the one, but it also shows on the heads-up display as well. And at any time you can go back to drive, and then when you're finished, you can hit the park button. So it's a slight learning curve, but it's not bad. It's pretty good. Okay, so here's some buttons for the climate control. So right now you can see these dials. We'll start with these dials. So you can see the temperature. They're synced right now. To unsync them, you can just simply start moving this one. It'll unsync it from that one for your temperature. Now, if you press in on that, then it immediately goes to the heated and cooled seat. So left will show the heated seat. Scroll to the right will be the, or that's the cooled seat. This is the heated seat. So yeah, cooled seat left, heated seat right. So color coded and everything, that makes it easy. Press it again, it goes back to the temperature there. Same thing on the passenger side. You just press it in, change the heated and cooled seat. Now if you press this button, it turns that dial, instead of the temperature, now it's the fan speed. So it increases the fan speed. You can adjust that. And then it goes back to normal. If you press this button, this dial is for your drive modes. So you can see it pops up here, and as I scroll through, there's different drive modes. Alright, so there's the mud, sand, rock crawl, wading in water, and then you can configure your own. Comfort, and then an eco. And there's an automatic function as well. Auto terrain response selected. So it'll automatically. Now this would be good if you're going down the trail and then sometimes you're going through some water or mud, or sometimes it's dry, that kind of thing. But the normal drive mode, let's go back here. Let's go here to, yeah, we'll just do comfort. That's the normal drive mode. There's no sport mode or anything like that. And this thing is fast already. It's already fast enough. So that's how you go access the drive modes. And then it just kind of goes away after a few seconds. Then we have the normal buttons here for the front and rear defrosters and stuff like that, where you want the air to blow, downhill descent for off-road use. And then you have the turn off the start stop idle stop feature. You can push that button, which I already have it off here. Recirculate the air. So this is all for your climate control controls here. Now your height adjustment is right here, so you can raise and lower the vehicle. So raising the vehicle would be for the off-road use, and then lowering the vehicle would be for entry and exit, so it can lower the vehicle a little bit. When off-roading and you have the vehicle in four-wheel drive, you can choose your low range here, and it'll put the it's really like an all-wheel drive system. It's not really like a four-wheel drive, but it does have the low range, so it's kind of like it is a real four-wheel drive system. Okay, so the USB-A and USB-C ports here, 12-volt power supply here as well, and there's this compartment that's accessible here, but it goes down in there. So once you put stuff in there, I like the way it is accessible here, because a lot of vehicles have like an open spot here on the side. It's not as easy to get to. You can literally set a bag down in that area and have the handles up here and easily, take it in and out. I think that's great. Here's the cup holders. It's all rubber on the inside and has these little bumps right there. So yeah, this is really nice. Easy to clean out as well. Now there's a cell phone charger here, and really, when you put your cell phone there, it's easy to put the cell phone in, but taking it out, you do have to kind of lift this up sometimes to get it out. And when you put that there, it shows when it starts charging. Sometimes it doesn't with the case on it. Let me see if I can get it to work here. Yeah, okay, so when it does charge, it'll show right here. That's the only way you can tell that it's charging. There's no light or anything here to let you know it's charging. It's just that little tiny thing on the screen. But it does normally charge even with my case on. Okay, so this armrest is kind of like a really nice feeling material. It's like a vinyl type material, but it's not slick. It's kind of like has a textured surface to it. Looks pretty nice, and this is rubbery soft too. And this locks down, and then you can release it, and it basically stays wherever you leave it. Doesn't slap back down on you. It goes all the way back there like that, so you can utilize that little space. This is kind of rubbery as well, so if you want to use that space for the rear passengers or whatever, you can use that little like a little cubby hole right there. It's pretty cool. Now I like the fact that it's rubberized in there as well. But you don't have to push it all the way back. It basically will go right there as well and stay there. But having that ability to move it all the way back is pretty cool. And then this is like a little cooler. I got my business cards in the way. But yeah, right there it's like a little cooler. And it's rubbery on the bottom, and then there's a metallic part on the sides, and you can turn on the cooler here. And it has a little light letting you know it's on. Yeah, that's kind of neat. You can just use it as a pocket when you're not using the cooler part. So this vehicle has a rear view camera or a rear view mirror, whichever one you want to use. So you can use the rear view. I like the rear view camera, it works great. So you can see behind the vehicle really good. Now it's in a kind of high position, it's on top of the vehicle on that little shark fin antenna I showed you. But it gives me a good view. And I can adjust it here. If I want to adjust it, there's the brightness. I can adjust the angle of it as well. Gonna have to adjust it down a little bit since it's so high up. And then there's the garage door opener controls here on the left side. Interior lights, it's just basically you hit this lens and you kind of have to know where to touch. There's the driver and passenger lights. There's a little ambient light right here. And then you have, not sure what this thing is. It's just like a big plastic thing. I don't know if it has a like a driver camera system in it, like driver monitoring system, or I'm not sure. I can't really tell what it is. At first I thought it would be like a sunglasses holder or something, but it doesn't appear to have that in there. So this is for the shade for the sunroof, and that's to open and close the sunroof here. We'll get to that in a second. The visor has like a vinyl material, this black that matches the sunroof, which is a cloth. It has a little clip here. You can see that clip. It has a bright light as well. One bright light on the small mirror. That's about it on that. So this vehicle has two glass roofs. There's one in the far back which has a manual shade, and that's a fixed piece of glass. Here on the front, it has a full, huge panoramic sunroof with a shade as well, power shade. So let's go ahead and open it. See how far back it goes here. All right, press it again. All right, as far back as it goes. So it's pretty big. It opens up about halfway, I guess. Sounds pretty smooth. And then the shade, the second button there, and the shade covers up 100% of the light. And then that rear glass back there is manual. You just close it. People in the back want to close it, they can open and close it all they want. Looking at the visibility in the back, it's quite limited because the headrests and the pillars and all that stuff, and spare tire gets in the way. So that's where the blind spot detection system, rear cross traffic alert, parking sensors, camera system, and the rear view camera, which is great, bypasses all that, and you get a direct view behind the vehicle, but it's kind of a narrow view. So changing lanes, the blind spot detection system works really good. I mean, you do have some pretty good visibility here, but back there it gets pretty bad. So something to consider. It's not really an issue. I hadn't had an issue driving this vehicle at all because of the technology that it has. You know, the cameras, the sensors and all that stuff is fantastic, you know. So yeah, as far as visibility, even though it's not technically that great back there, It hasn't been an issue at all. Under the drive modes, this vehicle doesn't have a specific sport mode, but it does have a configurable one. But I'm just going to accelerate. I'm just on dry pavement, so I'm going to accelerate normal mode so you can see what it sounds like. So it lifts the front end quite a bit because it has a high center of gravity and a fairly loose suspension, so that way it's a smooth ride. The suspension kind of tilts a little bit when you're accelerating, similar to braking. When I really hit the brake hard, like it really takes a nosedive. But that's kind of the characteristic of this type of vehicle. It has really good acceleration for the size of the vehicle. It also has really good braking. So when you have a real heavy vehicle and you're accelerating and braking fast like that, then it's gonna, the physics takes control. But it is a really good, as far as driving a vehicle this size and weight, it is a good feeling vehicle. The Land Cruiser kind of had that kind of big heavy tank type feel. This one's a little bit better, definitely better because of the air suspension system. There's a couple things that I've noticed as I'm driving. The screen here for the gauges has like an adaptive feature where it'll dim and brighten depending on the ambient light. But a lot of times it seems like it's too dim, a lot of times. So I even have the brightness turned up as high as it goes, both on the dial here and on the settings. You can see this is blasting bright, but this is always a little bit too dim. Almost always too dim, and sometimes I can barely read it, it's so dim. Another thing is when I'm playing music, it has this volume switch here, volume dial, which is fine on the steering wheel, but there's no way to mute it. So like I have to, the volume knob is way over there, like the passenger's volume knob basically is what I have to reach over and press to mute it. It's not like a quick way to mute it here. So a lot of vehicles will have the button that you scrolled for the volume, you press in to mute it. This one doesn't have that. So the only way to quickly mute the radio, instead of sitting there scrolling trying to adjust the volume, is to reach over there to the passenger side and press that button, which is not a big deal, but I just want to point it out. It's a little bit less convenient than having it right where you can access it on the steering wheel. When you accelerate normally, you're not like really hitting the accelerator hard. It feels powerful and it feels ready to go, and it doesn't feel like this vehicle needs a sport mode. So I can kind of understand why they leave that out on the drive modes here. Now it does have a standard mode, so if I wanted to change to the gears, I can bring it over here to standard mode, and I can use it like a ratchet shifter to raise and lower the gears. Depending on my needs. And I can always go back into drive to go into automatic. The heads-up display is actually pretty good, but once again, it has that kind of adjustment to the brightness. So sometimes it's a little dim, even if I have the brightness turned up wide open, as high as it'll go, it still has that adaptive part where it's sometimes a little too dim. But it is very clear. It's very clear to my eyes. It's hard to get it looking clear on camera, but it looks really good to my eyes. There's also a configurable amount of information you can put there. It can have speed limit signs, like the last speed limit sign that it passed, which is not accurate all the time. And then you have the status of the adaptive cruise control system. It even shows, of course, a speedometer, but it even shows when you're in standard mode as well, what gear you're in and all that stuff. So really good head-up display here. Really like it, and it's not too distracting. It's not overly obnoxious or whatever. It has enough colors and everything to have, valid information without just overdoing it. Also, the size of the speedometer is really good. It has a really large size speedometer and bold numbers, so you can easily read it, no problem. if I'm on roads that the speed limit is not 55, it'll usually see the sign and then adjust to whatever the speed limit says, like 35 miles per hour or 45. But then like just a few hundred yards past the sign, it defaults back to 55. So I see it constantly changes the speed limit sign. Even it doesn't even pass a sign, but it'll change it constantly. And I have it set to where it kind of makes a little beeping noise when the speed limit changes, and it's constantly like it's a big deal where I'm certain areas where there's no speed limit sign, it'll just default back to 55 after a short distance, even though it passed a 35 or a 45 sign not very far away, not even a half a mile before me was a sign, and then now it defaults back to 55 again. So you definitely don't want to count on that, otherwise you get a ticket. For a vehicle this size, it does handle the curves nicely. It stays nice and flat, and it just feels solid.